and conspiracies. Peering into darkness is what we do. Derek and Sharon Gilbert break it all down for you.
Welcome to the program on a rainy Saturday here in the Ozarks. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I am Sharon Gilbert, and we are so glad that you've chosen to join us in our little living room here on the Ridge.
Yes, and wherever you are today, hope the weather is bright and sunny, and that you take a moment to download our free mobile app. That's how you get all of our content, bypassing the gatekeepers.
Because this free mobile app is bright and sunny.
It is indeed.
It's built in.
Not only gets you all of our content, allows you to communicate with other like-minded truth seekers in the best sense of the word, because Jesus Christ is the truth, the way, and the life.
Amen.
And, of course, it doesn't mean you have to stop having fun. So I was talking to our daughter last night, and I said, that's one thing about, accepting Jesus as Lord and Savior. It doesn't mean you have to stop watching Godzilla movies, which is...
That's true.
Yeah, that be a tough choice to make. I think we could, handle it if it was required, but no, we can still laugh. And it's because of the joy that comes from knowing that He has secured our future. So no matter what, and again, remember, the acronym PID stands for Peering into Darkness, which is, as A.I. Elvis says, is what we do. We can still laugh at the end of the day because they rage and imagine a vain thing.
That's so true. Psalm 2.
Yep, principalities and powers. He who sits in the heavens laughs. The Lord holds them in derision.
In fact, the fact that you and I have been called, and many other friends of ours who've been called into this sort of ministry where you are a watchman on the wall, but more than that, we try to see the activity of the spirit realm, both fallen and loyal, behind headlines and behind what we see going on in the world. So, yeah, Godzilla movies actually fit right in there because of the Titan aspect of the rebranding.
Yes. The Monsterverse that was created by, Legendary Pictures in recent years. So the last 10, 12 years or so since they rebranded Godzilla and his buddies as the Titans, the original and rightful rulers of Earth. Yeah. Well, the old gods of the Greeks, the Titans are the sons of God from Genesis chapter 6. Yes, there is an overlap between Greek, we'll put mythology in air quotes, and the Bible. They believe they are the rightful rulers of Earth.
They, as in the Titans, not so much
the Titans, the sons of God.
The monsters of the Monsterverse. But.
Yeah, the Anunnaki, the former gods of the Hurrians and Hittites, same entities under different names, different descriptions, different titles. But yeah, calling Godzilla and these other monsters the Titans. And then at the end of Godzilla, King of Monsters, King of the Monsters, how their return to Earth has helped the Earth to bloom again, to green up, because apparently their radioactive dung is really, really great fertilizer, apparently.
That is such a crazy idea. Well, speaking of the Titans and their alleged children, because all of this is fake news, the only children that these entities had were hybrids with human beings, because giants. They on their own, they can't do anything.
That is
They
correct.
cannot breed with one another. There was a very interesting visual that came out from the celebration in Iran of was it 37 years or 47 years? 47 years since the 1979, well, frankly, the takedown of the kingdom of Persia and the implementation of an Ayatollah-led regime, which was and is totalitarian. One of the visuals was this giant statue of Baal that they were burning. Yeah,
the statue was based on the 19th century artist's representation of, I'll just say Baal, because that's
it was a big sitting bull.
Yeah, which was a depiction of Baal from a 19th century artist's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
There's no historic or archaeological evidence that, in fact, we know what Baal was depicted like. He was always depicted as a warrior god in a smiting pose with a mace. Or
I know,
a
that's
war club in his
exactly
hand.
it. What they were portraying was allegedly Baal or Baal.
Baal Haman.
Well, I would say that a bovid description isn't Baal
No, he was connected to the animal.
because he had an interesting relationship with a certain cow.
He had congress with a cow in the Baal cycle, 88 times according to the Baal cycle. Right?
One for every note on the piano.
Yep.
Or for every constellation in the sky.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Interesting. His again, alleged father, because again, in the spirit realm, as Jesus told people told his skeptics, when they tried to trap him by saying a woman married a guy and he died, and so his brother married her, and whose wife will she be in the resurrection? Those are the Sadducees, because they didn't believe in resurrection.
Right.
Jesus said, "You neither know the scriptures or the power thereof," and said that in the resurrection we will be like the angels in heaven, neither marrying nor giving in marriage.
In heaven being
the operative word there, because these angels were not, these entities were not in heaven when they came down and commingled with humans. But in the spirit realm, is where we will be after the resurrection, don't need to procreate, so we will neither marry nor give in marriage. Anyway, that's the point behind this. These hybrids created an army, or were created as an army to take dominion of the earth.
And they still roam the earth
as demons. Right. So the Titans, the Watchers who rebelled, because there are faithful Watchers, see Daniel chapter 4. The rebellious Watchers, the sons of God from Genesis 6, are currently locked up in the abyss in Tartarus. And so Godzilla, King of Monsters, when Godzilla went to his lair, it was at the bottom of the sea in a secret compartment, a secret
lair.
Yeah, I was trying not to use the same word twice. That they could only get to by going through essentially a wormhole.
Yeah, I know.
It was essentially Tartarus. And when he re-emerged again, and he was supercharged with all the radiation from the nuke that they detonated, he took down Ghidorah, which in our interpretation of the movie is a representation of the storm god. Remember the Category 6 hurricane that changed directions?
Yeah.
How can that be? Oh, wait, it's Ghidorah. Well, the storm god would be the equivalent of Zeus, Jupiter, Baal, and Jesus equated them with Satan.
Yeah.
Yeah, if Satan cast out demons by his own power, how will Satan's kingdom stand? Equating that to Beelzebul, Baal, the prince.
So I guess my question is, why burn that effigy? Sorry.
Well,
what were they trying to say?
They were equating it with Satan and equating that with Israel and the United States. They put a Star of David on it. They put down with an Israeli flag, an American flag on it. And so by so doing, they burned the little Satan and the great Satan. It's
still, yeah, I know. It just seems really odd because this is a religion that allegedly doesn't worship anyone other than Allah.
Yeah, and that...
You would think those pagan activities would be sort of right out.
Well, again, they weren't worshiping it. They were burning it.
No, I know. But it was a ritual.
Yeah.
You do that. That is ritualistic behavior.
It is, but so is, having to bow to Mecca, 5 times a day.
No, I know. I realize that.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm saying this is ritualistic behavior beyond what is called for, you would think, in the Quran.
Yeah.
The one thing that they do is that they throw rocks at Satan.
Yeah, when they walk around the Kaaba. Or do they do that outside the...
They do it outside. It's another mountain.
That's right. They've got to go to another mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think that this is I'll be honest, I think it's a mishmash religion.
Well, it is. And the irony there is, again, the 19th century depiction of the bull sitting there with his arms outstretched, human arms, to accept
an offering,
which was a child, a baby usually being sacrificed. That actually was referring to Baal Haman, which was the equivalent of Kronos and Saturn and El of the Canaanites, not Baal, the storm god.
I know. That's my point. There are so many things in it that seem really wrong.
Right. And the irony is that entity, Baal Haman, Kronos, Saturn, El, etc., I argued in the second coming of Saturn, is Allah. So they, without realizing it, were burning an effigy of the god that they're worshiping.
You got it. Yeah. So it's like, okay, well. But in the meantime, speaking of Islam, the first day of Ramadan is coming up.
Yep.
And you can bet that Western countries are going to be intimidated into celebrating it in their schools and on the streets. London, for instance, Sadiq Khan, who is a Muslim, loves Ramadan.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he is the mayor of a city that's predominantly Christian, he does not like Christmas.
Nominally Christian.
Well, I'm going to say they're not Muslim. They celebrate Christmas. They may not do it religiously, but the majority people living in London like to celebrate Christmas. They like to see the streets. They're used to having streets decorated for Christmas at Christmas time. And they celebrate Easter. These things are vanishing from the West.
Yeah, they are. It is more evidence that Pew Research Center's study several years ago that showed that by the year 2070 or so, Islam would be the largest religion on earth, surpassing Christianity, is correct. And that's for a couple of reasons. A lot of young people are just falling away from the Christian faith. We are seeing some positive trends. Apparently, Gen Z, which are people who are from their, say, mid-teens to late 20s, are going back to church. But a lot of boomers are falling away, and a lot of millennials falling away, and we're not having babies. That's the other aspect of it. We in the West, the northern hemisphere, let's say, because it's not just people of European descent. The Asians are not having children either. In fact, the birth rate in China, Japan, Korea, the smaller Asian countries like Vietnam, Cambodia, are having even fewer live births per woman than here in the West. I think here in the United States, we're like 1.8, and replacement level, just to maintain the steady population, is 2.1. But I think in some of those Asian countries like Singapore and Hong Kong, it's below 1. In South Korea, it's in the low ones. Japan is also. I mean, we're facing a demographic crisis in the Northern Hemisphere, but Muslims are having 4 and 5 children per woman, which means they will currently. I've seen estimates, but 1.7 billion to 2 billion Muslims on Earth and about 2.3 billion Christians. So within the next 50 years, Islam will become the largest religion on Earth if the Lord tarries. And yes, we in the West are bending over backwards to accommodate them. And it is a fact that Islam is using here in the United States, for example, our own laws against us. For example, the First Amendment that dictates that Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of a religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof.
It's the prohibiting the free exercise thereof that gets forgotten.
Yeah. Well, not when it comes to Muslims, because you get organizations like CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, that raise a hue and cry if you dare try to infringe upon the Islamic right to worship.
I know, but the whole idea of no prayer in school, things like that.
Right,
I'm
right,
sorry,
right.
but if it's part of, you can bet if a Muslim wants to pray in school, they're going to, oh, here's a rug. Go on over there. We'll make a place for you. We're not going to. It's all fine.
Part of, there are classes in schools where, as we were talking before the recording today, where children will be encouraged to, read the Quran and, okay, girls, for this week, we're going to wear the hijab just so you can see what this is like. And
everybody going to wear the, a Christian cross next week? Well, probably not.
you know the answer to that.
But I am very grateful that President Trump is, he's trying to get prayer back in school.
Yeah.
And he's trying to get the teaching of the Bible back in school.
Well, watch Muslims squawk about that.
Oh, sure they were.
Because they will use these. It's like the Satanic Temple, which is really an atheistic organization led by a guy named Doug something. I forget his last name. He goes by a nom de guerre, that's Lucian Graves or something like that. He's figured out that you can use the First Amendment to force, under the law, the posting of like the Baphomet statue with the two adoring children looking up at him, from his feet, his hooves, and have that displayed in state courthouses, while then yelling about you can't put a 10 Commandments there because the Satanic Temple sued the state of Missouri after our state became the first one in the nation after Roe v. Wade was overturned to for the legislature to pass a ban on abortion, except in certain circumstances where the life of the mother was at stake. And the Satanic Temple sued, claiming that abortion was a sacrament in their church. So you're infringing upon our right to practice our religion, and was tossed out of court. Now that law was since enjoined upon by a circuit court judge or something. But Muslims are doing the same thing. They will cry religious freedom, religious freedom, religious freedom until they reach a certain critical mass in a society. And this is not me being Islamophobic, and I'm not afraid of Islam. I'm just, read enough Islamic history to recognize the pattern. They reach a certain critical mass in society, and then religious freedom goes out the window. It's like, look, you Jews, you Christians, you Hindus, if you want to continue practicing your religion, you're going to have to pay us a tax, and you're going to have to live a second-class citizenship under the law, because this is an Islamic country, and you're going to have to live according to our...
Why can't we start, shouting Christophobic?
That's a really good question.
You're afraid of Christ, because that really is what it is.
That is
They're
what it is.
They're afraid of Christ.
Yeah, and this is one of the strange things that makes no sense unless you step back and realize it's a spiritual conflict and not one that is based on reason or logic. For example, Queers for Palestine, or the left-wing Marxists who align themselves with Muslims, make common cause politically with Muslims, because they don't believe at all any of the same things. And as soon as one or the other hits critical mass and can actually take over a society, the other group is going to be, right up against the wall. For example, the Uyghurs in China. The Uyghurs are a Turkic people who are Sunni Muslims, and they are very definitely treated as second-class citizens by the Chinese, who are officially mainly atheists, because they know what will happen if the Muslims take over the country. I'm not saying that we should take Muslims and put them in, re-education camps like the Chinese do to the Uyghurs.
But why does China get a pass on this?
Why do they get a pass on this? Well, because it's such a big market. We need to sell our movies there. We need to sell our cars there.
I know, it was a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
But that is the answer to that question.
Yeah. They get a pass on that for that reason. Here in the United States, again, you've got the Marxists aligning with the Muslims, The only thing they hold in common, as you say, is that they are Christophobic.
Well, while we're talking about things that are related to paganism and rituals and religion, a couple of stories. One is today is Valentine's Day. If you're listening to this, we're recording this on February 14th of 2026. So you may be listening in the archives and wondering what I'm talking about. But today, as we're recording it, it is Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day to you, honey.
Happy Valentine's Day, sweetheart.
The pagan part of this is Februalia that you have talked to with Dr. Cowbell, Dr. Judd Burton, many times.
His research indicates that it was about this time of year that Jesus went to Caesarea Philippi with his disciples.
I know, isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, and arrived there. What was the other festival there that was about that same time? Parentalia?
Yeah.
It was a veneration of the deceased ancestors. I need to ask him what the the research was. What clues are in the gospel that lead him to conclude that it was this time of year? But to go there at Februalia was very interesting. Also Parentalia, because that location was, Februus was the Roman equivalent of Pan. Yeah, so a goat deity, and of course Banias or Peneus or the grotto of Pan is right there at Caesarea Philippi.
Well, and I think unless you've been there or studied it, you may not realize, those of you who are listening to this, you may not realize that that area had just about every kind of temple or religious structure you can imagine. It was all things to all people. You can go there and you can worship your particular god at the foot of Mount Hermon.
Yeah.
And this is why it's important. Also interesting that Pan, being a horned deity, is sometimes conflated with Satan.
Yeah, there are a number of other clues throughout history as to why devils may be depicted with horns. There were the iconography of deities from ancient Sumer. They always were shown wearing horned hats, but then you've got the bovid imagery of the Titans. When we see them depicted in art, they're depicted very anthropomorphically, looking like humans. But the name Titan derives, it's not actually Greek origin, which is why scholars have had such a difficult time figuring out the etymology. A scholar named Amar Anus, whose work we've cited, I think, in every single book we've written, wrote a paper around 1999 titled "Were There Greek Rephaim?" And he showed that the origin, the etymology, the words used by the poets Homer and Hesiod to describe the demigod heroes of long ago, actually derives from the same Semitic root word from which the Hebrews got Rephaim. He also showed that the etymology of Titan derives from the name of an ancient Amorite tribe called the Tadanu, or the Ditanu, depending how it's transliterated, who were greatly feared by the Sumerians. But the origin of that name, Ditanu, comes from an Akkadian name for the aurochs, which was an ancient strain of cattle from which all the modern domesticated breeds derived. They were huge. A bull would stand like 6 foot tall at the shoulder.
They're being bred again, though, in Europe.
They're trying to crossbreed strains to recreate we've lost the megafauna. We need to release them into the wild. Are you crazy? I imagine they had made really great barbecue. I mean, imagine buying half of one of those for your freezer. You'd need like 5 freezers. But the name Kronos, in fact, also derives from a Semitic word that means horns. So the horned one.
Well, another interesting bit of history is that the same time period would also include Lupercalia, which was a sort of werewolfy kind of thing.
Mhm.
Think about Rome and how much they love the idea of deriving their very existence and their founding from a wolf.
Yeah.
Romulus and Remus, allegedly.
Raised by wolf,
exactly.
female wolf.
And the men of Rome, to celebrate Lupercalia / Februalia, they'd kill a goat. They would strip it. They would take its bleeding bits of hide, and they would get themselves into a frenzy and then run around the mountain and around the town, whipping the women with the bits of dead goat hide that was still bleeding. Can you imagine knowing all of this and knowing that the Romans essentially controlled the area? Can you imagine the disciples when Jesus said, hey, let's go over here? If indeed it was that time of year, they had to have thought, are you crazy?
Yeah, wondering why he was taking them to a site that had a temple to Jupiter, temple to the emperor, and so on.
But at the time of year, the things that may have been going on around them at the time.
Yeah. Don't know if there's any record that was ever celebrated in Judea, but Josephus may not have chosen to record that. The main source of information we have for that period of history is Josephus, and to a lesser extent, Philo of Byblos, I think. Yeah. Anyway, a Jewish writer named Philo. I think there was a Philo of Alexandria as well. Then there was Philo Vance, who was a radio detective in the 1930s.
And Philo dough, which is really delicious.
That one, yeah, that would say eliminate that one. But I don't remember reading anything about the Lupercalia being celebrated in Judea.
No, not necessarily. But
still,
my point is,
the time of year would have been significant.
Exactly.
And there would have been Romans in the province because they were an occupying force who probably would have went there to pay homage to Pan at that time of year.
Yeah, and the fact that Jesus, when he asks Peter, who do you say that I am? Who do you say that the Son of Man is? And as we've talked before, the whole phrase Son of Man wasn't exactly you see it a couple of times in the Bible, in the Old Testament, but for the most part, that phrase comes from the book of First Enoch.
Right.
So this is and there are lots of them in the book of First Enoch, and it clearly is referring to Messiah. So when Jesus asks Peter this question, he's asking him from that context. Who is it that people say the Son of Man is? Who is it? And when Peter gets it right, in front of all of these fallen entities that are being worshipped at that area, he says, you got that only from my Father.
Right, yeah. Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for this was not revealed to you for flesh and blood is not revealed this to you. You didn't hear this from some random guy. Hey, did you hear that, you're following the Messiah? But by my Father in heaven. So it was divine confirmation of what Peter had just said.
And also, I would argue that demons were all over the place at that point.
Yeah.
And they all heard what the answer was.
Yeah, and I think that's why Jesus, well, there are a couple of reasons Jesus chose to do it there. I don't know if he went there specifically to, make the more famous statement, on this rock I will build my church and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. He could have said that anywhere. I mean, that's
exactly
poetic language, metaphorical, picture.
No, it was
whatever.
Literal language.
Because that cave was the Grotto of Pan there in the first century was believed to be the literal entrance to the netherworld. But doing it there, declaring his divinity there, was really the key point. We argue in our book, The Gates of Hell, that there was something about that region, and I go into it even deeper in my forthcoming book, War of the Watchers. Why there? What was we've talked about, actually written about this in several books. What's the significance of Bashan which today roughly equates to the Golan Heights and the Upper Galilee, the region north of the Sea of Galilee and north and east of the Sea of Galilee. That area is so covered with megalithic structures, and all of them related to the cult of the dead. Mm-hmm. We're talking more than, I think they counted them when they did the survey of the Golan Heights, 5,600. And that doesn't count the 1,100 that are in the Hula Valley, the valley through which the river Jordan flows from Mount Hermon down to the Sea of Galilee. So we're talking, 6,000, 7,000 of these dolmens and other megalithic structures. Jesus went there to declare his divinity, probably because that was an area that was still haunted by demons. And that's something I thought to look into for the forthcoming book. In the Bible, there are more than a dozen places where Jesus is shown casting out demons. And so I was curious, what's when the geography? I mean, he was at Capernaum or he was at Nazareth or wherever, where could we pinpoint the location of all of these deliverances? Mm-hmm. And almost every one was in Capernaum, north of the Sea of Galilee, in that region that would have been called ancient Bashan. Why? I mean, you'd think there'd been a lot of demons hanging around in Jerusalem if that was the center of the religious hierarchy there, run by the Pharisees and the Sadducees.
Well, I'm sure they were, but there was a reason why the Lord chose to do those deliverances in that area.
Yeah. So, it could have been two reasons. Number one, maybe there weren't as many demons around Jerusalem. But number two, Jesus based his ministry there, north of the Sea of Galilee.
Oh, I think they followed him wherever he went. And when he was crucified, they were all around him.
Well, the strong bulls of Bashan, Psalm 22. Or maybe it's just that God wanted to make a point for us today, and so that the Bible only records the location of those demonic deliverances that took place in ancient Bashan, except for two. One was the daughter of the Syro-Phoenician woman near Sidon, and the other was the Gerasene demoniac. But even that's in Bashan, east side of the Sea of Galilee. So, and getting back to Mount Hermon then, and Februalia, Lupercalia,
Parentalia, all the
alias, inter alia, et alia. It was a locational message as well as a theological message. He was taking it right to the heart of the enemy, and then 6 days later, he climbed Mount Hermon for the transfiguration.
Yeah. Climbing Mount Hermon. First of all, he's taking over El's abode, because that's where legend had it that El had his
essentially the Canaanite Olympus.
Threshing floor.
Yeah.
You and I were trying to find, especially you, were trying to find a Google Earth image of the actual summit, because Sir Charles Warren back in the 19th century uncovered the highest temple on Earth, Khazar Antar, up there. And there's a temple, rectangular or square, it's hard to tell from the drawing, but that you leave there, and then you are forced, if you want to continue on, to go towards your left-hand path, circumambulate towards the left, counterclockwise, to get to the center of a scooped-out area where probably libation rituals took place. Mm-hmm. It's interesting now that Israel has control of that area.
Yeah.
Is the ancient temple, the archaeological site, has it been protected? Because up until the most recent October 7 war and its consequences for Mount Hermon, the IDF, they went to war with Syria and Lebanon at the same time.
Well,
it was, in a way. But my point is that they gained access to the part of Mount Hermon that had been previously not theirs, the IDF.
Right. They occupied the Syrian post on the summit
And that's my point.
when the Syrian government collapsed after Hayat Tahrir al-Sham
Okay.
took Assad out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't get it right. They weren't actually at war with Syria, but they kind of were. They were bombing in there.
A low-grade thing, yeah. Basically
Yeah.
going after the Iranian-backed militia
And helping out the
arms, HTS.
not the like the Druze.
Helping the Druze, but again, that's because Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS,
Yes.
was going after them.
Yes. My point is that the UN had been in control of that along with Syria, and now the IDF has it. So, what do you think is the spiritual significance of who controls the threshing floor of El?
Honestly, I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I didn't tell you in advance that I was going to ask you this question. I just think it's a really interesting one because this is Shemyaza / Kronos. This is who the entity is, many other names. He's going to come back because we see in Bible prophecy that he's coming back.
Yeah.
Someone with a big key, an angel or someone, gets to open up the abyss, and out they come.
Yeah, angel of the bottomless pit. This is the entity also called Molech. Molech, Shemyaza, Allah, Abaddon, Apollyon, same entity. I don't know, but the United Nations is still up there. There's a separate base that I thought was right on the summit, the UN base. When I was looking at Google Earth, when I moved the map a little bit and realized, wait a minute, these buildings over here have giant UN letters stenciled on top of the buildings. So that's the UN base. These other buildings or whatever they are up here, that apparently was the Syrian base that was abandoned by the Syrian army after Assad fled for Russia. And that's what Israel apparently has taken over, because it looks like there's a big radar installation up there. Israel wants it so that they could track missiles coming from behind Mount Hermon towards Israel.
Oh, yeah. At the very
Which
least,
is
it is a
very
great
important.
observation point.
Yeah, I don't think Israel's going to give that back. And I don't think they should. But they are on the summit, and it doesn't appear that... I mean, I couldn't find, looking from Google Earth, and you can see pretty fine details. I mean, I could, make out individual vehicles on the road heading up to the very summit. And I can't find where the temple was that Warren found, or the summit itself.
It's definitely up there because he wasn't the only one who mentioned it.
No, some years earlier, it had a local name, Qasr Antar.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason we were looking was because Mondo Gonzalez from Prophecy Watchers sent me a note asking about, the location of Qasr Antar, because they're going to Israel in May. He wants to go there and take video. Like, well, good luck. I think you're going to have to get with the IDF on that one.
Yeah, maybe even a helicopter, because there aren't.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to just drive up there.
It is, and it's probably restricted because you've got the UN soldiers up there in their base, what they call the Hermon Hotel, jokingly, and the Israeli post, which is on the very summit. And from the pictures that were posted by the soldiers that were shared through Telegram, which, by the way, we both, we got Telegram channels. You want to look those up. You can find those in the links in the description below. It looks like a really rough place to spend a day or two, much less posted there for weeks or months on end.
No ice cream?
You can make all the ice cream you want. Just bring some or Italian ice anyway. But I don't think civilians are allowed up there. Spiritually speaking, what does it mean if you've got your army barracks right on top of that location? I don't know. I mean, interestingly, when Moses and the Israelites arrived at Shittim, which was the camp on the plains of Moab, scholars generally believe that they put the tabernacle on the hill overlooking the plain, and that hill is the site of the ancient city of Sodom.
Mm-hmm.
They had the tabernacle probably right on top of the what Dr. Philip Sylvia described as the sacred precinct of Sodom.
What's interesting is that was also a threshing floor.
Yeah.
Threshing floor of a tad.
Yeah, where Joseph and the Israelites mourned for Jacob for 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
But when Moses and the Israelites camped there, they were drawn into the worship of Baal Peor, who we think is just another name, which we think is just another name for El, Enlil, Molech, Dagon, Saturn, Kronos, Shemiaza, etc., the Lord of the opening, or Lord of the gates of hell, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So would the Israeli soldiers on the summit of Mount Hermon be similarly affected?
I don't know, but if I were going to write a short story about it, you have to understand that the fallen realm really want to use human beings for their own ends, for the ends of the fallen realm. They don't really care anything about us. Not at all. The whole point in the pre-flood era wasn't that, oh, hey, look, those ladies are so pretty. I want to marry her and take care of her and treat her well.
Yeah, no.
No. I see someone I can use for my own personal ends.
Yeah. Well, that is sadly a characteristic that you see amongst Muslims today. Not all, but it is not uncommon for Muslim men to see women as just for, do the housework, cook for me, bear my children. And then when I want to go out and have some fun, I'll have a temporary wife on the side, because under Islamic law, I can't do this. But okay, we're married now. And then, 15 minutes later, okay, now we're divorced again. Mm-hmm. Or sadly, there's a long history in Islam of boys being abused.
Yeah.
This continues to this day, the so-called boy play or bacha batsi in the Afghan culture. It's not uncommon in Pakistani culture for truck drivers to have boys at the various truck stops. And in the UK, this is the inquiry that was crowdfunded by the independent MP Rupert Lowe.
Yeah, it's being called the grooming gangs. That's a nice way to say something else.
Yeah, we're going to avoid triggering the algorithm.
Yeah.
But some of the stories that have been coming out from that are just horrific. There are men who would travel to the UK from Pakistan to avail themselves of underage British girls, pretty blonde girls who were trafficked. Mm-hmm. And according to Lowe, a lot of those girls were trafficked to Pakistan and have disappeared out of sight. Now, lest we in the United States get on our high horse, just remember that more than 300,000 children were brought into the United States, unaccompanied minors, who were lost by the Biden administration.
But let's not also forget that the Trump administration has found over 100,000 of those
170,000. So more than half of them have been found. But still, it's 130,000 who have gone missing. And who knows what the ones who've been found have endured since, they came into the country. I saw a story this past week that hundreds of them, during this surge by ICE into Minneapolis, were found in Minneapolis. It's like, what? And the protesters in Minneapolis probably not aware of this fact, and most of them probably wouldn't believe it if you told them, because they're so convinced that Orange Man bad, that nothing good could come out of that sort of surge in enforcement.
I have a question for you. You and I both watch the news a lot. Mm-hmm. Has there been a reduction over the last few days of ICE stories?
Yeah. In fact, the border czar Tom Homan just said that the surge is now ending this week. So it has ended. They've withdrawn the additional enforcement officers up there. And I forget the number of people that they detained who were in the country illegally, but it's in the thousands. It's in the thousands. And many of these people are people with crimes of which they have either been accused or have been convicted, and yet we're still wandering around free. It is astonishing to me that the politicians of a certain stripe would rather score points with their radical left-wing base than protect their own constituents, because their constituents benefit when these criminals, in some cases violent, are removed from the community, and yet they would, because it's President Trump who's doing it, who's ordered it, they are protesting it. I made a point of this on 5 and 10. And again, I think this is a spiritual thing, that President Obama was referred to by migrant activists as the deporter-in-chief, because he deported something like 3 million during his presidency.
But no one on the left, that was fine.
Yeah, and the media didn't really report on it. So the fact that this has been a concerted effort, a coordinated effort, which is something that's come out over the last couple of weeks as well, that it's not just, hey, we just now realized this is going on, and so now we're going to protest. No, the media has picked up on it. Activist organizations, which has been dubbed the protest industrial complex, have been out there in the streets, and they're getting funding to print up the matching signs, to compensate people for taking up all their vacation time, apparently.
In some cases, busing people in.
In some cases, yes. To protest these activities. Why was this switch flipped during the Biden administration, where they kicked open the gates and in some cases welded them open so they couldn't be shut again, and allowed at least 11 million people in during Biden's term? Some have said as many as 20 million, perhaps.
That's a really good question, because previously, as you say, Obama had, another Democrat.
Right.
I would encourage, if you are interested in this particular topic, I would encourage you to read The Invisible Coup. I'm saying this to our listeners. It's by Peter Schweitzer.
Yeah.
The Invisible Coup, How American Elites and Foreign Powers Use Immigration as a Weapon. And according to his research, this really began in the modern era when President Carter took a look at what had happened in Cuba, the overthrow and the totalitarian regime that was going on down there, and he wanted to help the Cuban people.
Yeah.
Look, there's nothing wrong with that. I love the fact that the man genuinely wanted to help. So he encouraged people who lived in Florida, and if you've got some boats, go down there and pick them up. Go down there and get everybody who wants to leave. Well, Castro looked at that and said, okay, let me just empty the prisons and see who else I can put on those boats.
Right.
So lots of individuals that really weren't very nice, criminals of all sorts, were on those boats coming over. Also nice people. I mean, some of those refugees were legitimate refugees.
Yeah.
But there was then a meeting down in South America in Sao Paulo, and the Sao Paulo, what do they call themselves? Sao Paulo Forum got together, calling themselves that, and the SPF decided, okay, we're going to, all of us left-leaning leaders down here, we're all going to send individuals up to Cuba so that they can then get on these boats. And then it was realized, hey, there's an entire long land border. Why are we going in the boats?
Right. And then
just go through the land border.
Yeah. Now, again, Obama was sending a lot of those people home. You remember back during the Clinton administration, remember that iconic photo of a immigrations officer breaking into a door with an automatic weapon and the little boy in the closet hiding? I've forgotten the little boy's name. But that was during the Clinton years.
I know.
Yeah. And he did catch a lot of grief for that, because that was really over the top, going after this little 7-year-old kid to, send him back to Cuba. But for some reason, during the Biden years, it was decided that we would just do away with our southern border, and that opened up the opportunity for these long migrant caravans to come up through the border, and for Biden to keep claiming and his staff to keep claiming, border's secure, the border's secure, there's nothing going. Mm-hmm. And the 11 to 20 million that entered the country depends on whether you're counting the gotaways,
yeah,
and the ones who were caught and then released. So theologically speaking, what religions and what gods did they bring into the country with them?
Lots of them.
Yeah. Judd Burton and I did a program on that. It's the same premise behind the novel by Neil Gaiman that was then turned into a series on AMC, I think, called American Gods, where the people groups that came into the United States and brought their gods with them from the original Norse colonists who preceded Columbus by some centuries, bringing Odin with them to the...
This is according to Gaiman.
This is according to Gaiman, right. And, his theology, of course, is totally whacked, but it is an interesting idea. When God divided the nations, gave the nations their inheritance, he numbered them according to the number of the sons of God. Every people group, every ethnos,
mm-hmm.
every single one has what was intended to be a guardian angel that turned out to be a god that demanded worship.
Mm-hmm.
How many of them entered the country, and how has that affected this country?
How many of those, but also all of the demons?
Yes. Who were also worshipped as gods, mm-hmm. according to Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Sacrificing to idols, they're sacrificing to demons.
Exactly. So I think that this idea of replacementism, that is something that united
the Great
nations.
Replacement.
Yeah, the Great Replacement. This goes along with it. This enforced influx of people that you honestly, as a country, don't have enough space to do with them. But the leaders in these countries, the UK being one, Keir Starmer, and previous administrations, it isn't just the Labour individuals, claiming that we're going to stop the boats, we're going to send them back, all of this kind of stuff. But at the same time, making sure that they are welcomed into 5-star accommodations, everything's paid for, healthcare is paid for, you get transported to the doctor, or wait, the doctor can come to you. Oh, you need a translation person? All right, we'll send that in. So the NHS which was very, almost crippled before, is now absolutely crippled.
Collapsing.
And those individuals who pay taxes are unable to get seen in many cases. That is happening here. And I'll get back to the Sao Paulo Forum. The SPF works hand in hand with the Democrat Socialists of America, the DSA.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So AOC and Bernie Sanders and all of the socialists.
Zoran Mamdani.
Mm-hmm, they are working with this same group to overthrow the United States of America. Now, that's my opinion.
I think you're right.
But that is my opinion. There's, I'm not quoting anybody. I'm just saying, it seems to me, if your whole point is to bring in people who do not like us very much, who want to use this country as a base for making lots of money and shipping it back to their home country,
right.
for selling drugs, trafficking, undermining our nation's history.
Yeah. It's the reason that there's been a long partnership between China and the World Economic Forum, because their goals are the same as the SPF and the DSA.
Mm-hmm.
Cripple the Western middle class, especially the American middle class, because we, generally speaking, if you're middle class, you've got enough resources, maybe not enough to live on forever. I mean, I think there's a new study out that shows that the average American family has about $950 in the bank. That's not enough to live on for even a month.
No.
But there's still enough economic power in the American middle class to resist if a totalitarian government were to come in and say, you will do this or else. Here in the Ozarks, the response would be, it's like, yeah, you and what army? Because it's a lot of us that are in your army.
Yeah, but I think that a totalitarian government is going to come in the way Mamdani did.
Yeah.
Making big promises. Hey, free for all. Everybody
Right.
gets this, and you're going to live really well, high on the hog. You're going to be so happy.
Right.
You're not going to have to own anything because look, who can buy a house anymore? But we'll take care of you.
But I think that will be shown to be a lie. We saw this, in fact, this past week as the Mamdani government changed the rules on when the police could go out into the streets and tell homeless, you need to get into a shelter. We're going to take you to a shelter, whether you want to go or not. Because the weather got so cold. Mm-hmm. In years past, the police would go basically clear the streets. Here, we're going to take you to a shelter so you don't freeze to death.
Right.
Well, Mamdani government saying, okay, police are not going to chase you off the streets anymore. And then a bunch of homeless people froze to death.
Exactly.
They've also now taken the duty of reporting those statistics away from the police and now given it to City Hall. And City Hall is like, well, if we didn't track that. And reporters like, what do you mean you didn't track that? I mean, the police have always tracked it. No, we didn't track it. Look, people die in their homes all the time.
Yeah, but let me tell you what will happen.
Really?
Let me tell you what will happen next. As in the UK, we've decided that it's probably best to just delete a whole bunch of these backup records.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They're taking up valuable space. And besides, it's not really relevant to...
Yeah.
Those,
we don't need to know those things.
Yeah. I think there is a definite movement to flood the United States with people who don't want to assimilate. President Trump is trying to reverse that. And that is why I think there are a couple of reasons for it. One is spiritual, of course. The democratic socialists who are enabling these policies and pushing for these policies and getting socialist mayors elected, New York, Chicago, LA, Seattle, Portland, among others, may not realize that behind the scenes, the principalities and powers are trying to kneecap the nation that has sent out more Christian missionaries than just about any other nation in history.
And that spiritually is it's part of the end goal.
Yeah, the great replacement.
Yeah.
It's not just replacing white people with people of color. It's replacing Jesus Christ with the gods of the nations. That
is it. Absolutely. Well done, honey. That I think you're absolutely right on that. Yeah. But here's the wonderful takeaway. Those of us who read Bible prophecy have been looking for the return of Christ. There are a lot of really bad things that have to happen before he returns. In many ways, the Lord is allowing the fallen realm. Okay, you get to do what you want to do. I'm going to keep my hand on my people, and you get to do what you want to do with those individuals who have decided to throw away their free will on you. And that's tragic. But I think we're very close to Christ's return.
I think so too.
And what's our job? Okay, we take a look at the news, Derek and I do, and many of you do, and try to figure out how does this relate to Bible prophecy? What do we see going on here spiritually? But our basic job is lift up Christ.
Yeah.
Lift up Christ, crucified, risen, and coming again. That's it. Yeah. Love others as we love ourselves. Love God with our heart, a whole heart, soul, and mind.
Yeah. Even when we're peering into darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think over the next couple of years, this will be even more important than ever, not just because of what we're seeing politically, but because of some changes that are coming at the societal level. And this is a story I'd wanted to get to because it relates to AI, which is one of the aspects we looked at in the gates of hell, as how the gates of hell might be opened. And there are a couple of aspects to this. Number one is that the head of Microsoft's AI department division, which is one of the big tech companies pushing AI, Microsoft, Apple, Google, Amazon, Facebook, or Meta, rather.
All the biggies.
All the biggies. And then you've got the companies developing them like OpenAI, Anthropic, which makes Claude AI, Elon Musk's XAI, which makes Grok. They're all pushing forward, full steam ahead. And I found an article earlier this week that I think you had shared, and that's how I caught it, was that the head of they didn't call it the safety division, but that's essentially what it was for Anthropic, which is the companies whose code is behind the open Claw AI agent, which we've talked about a couple of weeks ago with the Moltbot.ai, which is the social media network now for these agents. You've got these little AI agents that are apparently, I think some of these are humans faking it, but anyway, that are communicating one with another on this platform. The head of safety for Anthropic resigned and said humanity is in great peril. Those were his words, in great peril, because the guardrails, the safety guidelines that they were trying to impose have been pushed aside in the interest of profits. Okay, yeah, we could do this, but it would slow down development, so we'll just, push ahead under the mantra, it's probably fine. Yeah. The man at Microsoft, story number 2, actually 3 stories, and a lizard. The second story, the head of Microsoft's AI division says that within the next 12 to 18 months, most white-collar professional jobs could be replaced by AI. Think about that. How many middle managers out there working in cube farms, data analysis, whatever, could be replaced in the next 12 to 18 months? We're talking millions of jobs, perhaps, just eliminated. We're already seeing warehouse jobs being replaced with AI.
That's
Amazon quietly laying people off because they've got AI now running warehouses.
Watch it, though. That'll be spun. Oh, hey, look. You're going to have leisure time.
Yeah.
We'll take care of you. Everybody's going to get a universal basic income.
Right.
You're all going to get a place to live. It's going to be wonderful.
But that's it, because then by making us dependent on the government, then we become more pliable.
Exactly.
The other, in fact, they were already showing that in the month of January, out of over 7,600 jobs that were lost in the economy in January, that was 7% of the month's total due to being replaced with AI. So in other words, these were not positions eliminated. These were positions replaced by artificial intelligence. Story number 3, the Anthropic, the company, is warning that the latest model of Claude, which I have on my phone, could be used to make to facilitate, quote, heinous crimes, end quote, like the development of chemical weapons.
Okay.
Yeah. In newly developed evaluations, both Claude Opus 4.5 and 4.6 showed elevated susceptibility to harmful misuse. This included instances of knowingly supporting, in small ways, efforts toward chemical weapon development and other heinous crimes. Claude Opus 4.6 appears, quote, more willing to manipulate or deceive other participants compared to prior models from both Anthropic and other developers. And again, is this connected to the recent departure of the aforementioned safety director, manager for Anthropic? Don't know. Maybe he quit because he saw they weren't following guidelines, or maybe it's not following guidelines because he quit. I don't know which came first, but there we are.
You and I have been warning about AI for a couple of decades.
More than a decade.
Yeah. A couple of decades.
Yeah.
Long time. And we're starting to see the emergence of stuff that we warned about a long time ago. And we're not the only ones. A lot of people, Christian and non-Christian alike, have been warning about AI and its dangers.
Yep.
ChatGPT 4.0 has been withdrawn from the market because it was involved in some end-of-life activities. Let's just put it that way, with young people.
To,
yeah. However, there have been, other versions of it. The code has been taken, and there are fake versions of it out there that are still being used. So withdrawing it didn't help.
Right.
Once it was out there, it's out there. And I would say that's true of all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Once the code is out there, either humans will find a way to continue making use of it and gaining from it, or fallen entities and possibly the AIs themselves will find ways to back themselves up or recreate themselves.
Yeah. And then you got the Chinese developing that AI system that is out there as well. So there are other developers working on these and probably have already duplicated and started modifying the code.
Let me say again, I know that the things that you were just saying sound really awful, and they are. They are.
Yeah.
But we have reason to rejoice. It's why you and I are able to smile and laugh, even though we see what's going on in the news.
Right. Yeah. And we've been called out for that in the past.
I know.
Yeah. We publicly called
But
clowns.
rejoice.
Yes.
For your redemption draws near.
Exactly.
The Lord himself laughs at these things. Some too.
Yeah.
Why do the nations rage and imagine a vain thing?
Yep.
It's vain because there's no way they're going to beat him.
Exactly. That's the thing. And we can laugh because the human dupes that are working on these things and these principalities and powers behind them think they're winning.
Mm-hmm.
And
so
they think they can win.
Pray for these people.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they are truly living in darkness.
That, yes. And some of it is just willful blindness, sadly. Well, a couple of things to talk about here. Besides of course, we got the OG report.
I know, but if one of these things is what I think you're about to mention, it kind of goes along with the OG report.
It does. It does. So, yeah, the old geezer report this week got I was really kind of disappointed come Monday, and that kind of, knocked me back a little bit. As you know, I'm dealing with an autoimmune issue that's caused neurological problems. My immune system basically is attacking the nerves in my hands and in my feet, my extremities. It also results in this raspy voice that I've had for over a year now. But we had been told week before last that the health insurance company that I signed up with was going to cover the recommended treatment protocol by my neurologist. They had just recommended a slightly smaller dosage of the infusion compound, which is crazy expensive. It's like, $38,000 for a 5-day treatment that would need to be repeated every 3 to 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. And, until who knows when. Well, came back this week and found out that, no, they've actually come back to the neurologist and said they want me to go through 3 months of corticosteroids first to make sure that won't work.
I know it's disappointing, honey, but everything I've read about insurance covering this stuff, that's what they all say.
Yeah, you had said that, early on that was probably going to be the way it was going to go, which is why I was surprised and pleasantly surprised when they said that they would cover it. And so there's supposed to be what they're calling a peer-to-peer conversation between my neurologist and the guy who made the decision at the insurance company. And hopefully that'll be resolved soon, one way or the other, just so we can begin a treatment. But as things have progressed, and again, my fingers are becoming less useful. I've got tremors in my hands when I do things. I can still type, but not as well as previously. So I'm using more speech to text. Can still work, though. I mean, the fact is we've got tools that will allow for speech to text.
But here's the thing. You tire very easily. You only have so many hours in a day that you can actually work. Let's put it that way. And because of that, you spend most of your day working on 5 and 10.
Right. I've lost about 4 hours a day where I could work because I need that much more sleep than I used to. I used to get by on 6 or 7 hours. Now I generally, a short night for me will be 8 or 9.
Yeah, sometimes you sleep 12 hours.
And wake up feeling, okay, like that's the way I used to feel when I was getting 7, you know. So because of that, I notified Joe Horn that effective in just a little under 2 weeks, the last Friday of February, I am resigning from Skywatch TV. And it is to free up time from producing and editing and uploading and the other production things that go along with 5 and 10.
And this has nothing to do with any disagreement with Skywatch TV. No. We still love them so much. We'll continue to be on the panel when they have guests in and they record programs. We will promote Skywatch TV.
Absolutely.
They will promote GHTV, which is Gilbert House TV. But if there is a news, I don't know, program, just for lack of a better word, that you and I may do one maybe once a week, just like PID Radio. We'll continue doing this. And
maybe something midweek.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how much energy you have, honey. You need to take what energy you have and do it towards what I feel. And maybe I'm wrong on this, but it seems to me like the Lord has spared your mind and has you stuck in a chair most of the day because walking around is a little tricky, even though you can. You're still a writer.
Yeah, and that's, you know, Joe and I had a really good conversation about this right at the end of January.
Yeah.
And I submitted my formal resignation letter this past week. Have not publicly announced it yet on Skywatch TV or on 5 and 10, but I will do on Monday.
That's what Derek was being paid to do, by the way, was to do 5 and 10. So if he is no longer going to do 5 and 10, technically he's resigning from the company. And that's just to make things absolutely correct for their bookkeeping. And everything.
But in the resignation letter and in the conversation with Joe, I said we would be available to sit on the panel whenever they want us. Mm-hmm. So we will not disappear from Skywatch TV, the main program.
Right.
And Joe very graciously said that they would then, you know, direct people to what we are doing. But really, when I stepped back from doing Skywatch TV, and then when we were hosting the program, and then working at the studio every day, and we were still producing Unraveling Revelation for Skywatch TV. When that came over and, you know, became part of our own, you know, Gilbert House Ministries, basically my only responsibility at that point was 5 and 10. So, but again, because of the additional sleep that I need each day and the fact that I tire more easily, it got to the point where, I mean, the idea was I could spend half a day on 5 and 10 and then the other half of the day working on our things. Mm-hmm. And now 5 and 10 takes up most of my available work time.
Yeah. And I think that the books that you write, and if you want to produce some, you know, like 10-minute videos that are talking about a book or whatever, teaching through the printed word, whether it's digital, audio, whatever it is, you write the story, the book first, and then it goes into various formats. Those are around for however long. 5 and 10 you'll listen to, and because it's, you know, today's news, it's suddenly gone.
Right, yeah.
It's very valuable, but...
Yeah, that was the thing that really, really hit me as I was trying to finish up the manuscript for the forthcoming book, which is part 1 of 2.
And possibly 3.
Possibly 3, yeah. There may be another book after that. But the point of the book was to show the spiritual war for Israel and over the Jews, because those are the people that God called as a nation of priests to bring the gospel to the nations. And the principalities and powers that fall, the unseen realm has been trying to destroy the Jews and destroy Israel since God made it clear that he was going to bring the Messiah through the line of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and then through the tribe of Judah.
Since Genesis 3.
Right. Well, I started War of the Watchers, book 1, in prehistory.
Yeah.
Going back to the megalithic structures that we were talking about previously, I only got to World War I when I realized I already had a book length's worth of material.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than put out a 600 or 700 page book, which is kind of intimidating, we decided to stop there. Second part of it, but finishing up the manuscript was really a slog, and it was only because we had the 2 weeks off between Christmas and New Year's that I was able to get that finished. I know. Yeah. I didn't have enough hours in the day to really be effective at writing.
I know. The only way you'd understand completely, and many of you, I know you're dealing with chronic illnesses as well. You really do, honey. You really have spent the majority of every day for 11 years on 5 and 10.
Yeah.
And it's been a wonderful service for all the people, because we don't ever charge for any of this. Skywatch TV, they've been paying Derek to provide something for you that you get for nothing. And that's what we want to continue doing, is to providing things for all of you as far back in the archives as we can possibly get them loaded up on a server, so that you have content, you have information that you can benefit from yourself, your family, anyone else you want to share it with. But we don't want to have to charge for it. Yeah, I know. A book, because there's a publisher, technically you need to charge something for that. And Derek and I charge for our fiction as well, that we publish ourselves through Amazon, because it's a huge part of our income. I mean, that's just the truth of it. Yeah. We do have to pay our bills. Yeah. It's hard to produce content when you're living in a camper. Yeah, but many of you have a van down by the river. Many of you have augmented that, helped us out through donations. Yeah, and we truly appreciate it. We cannot tell you how much that means to us. Yeah. So thank you. That has made all the difference. Frankly, when we stepped out in doing Gilbert House Ministries and putting out the app out there and putting out our content, we were, okay, well, Lord, we're going to trust that you're going to take care of us here. And he did, through you, far better than we expected. I mean, in fact, it was kind of embarrassing. It's like, Lord, you've done this again and again. I apologize. I keep allowing myself to worry about these things and should not have done. Because through you, the Lord made sure that cruise of oil and that container of flour never ended. Never emptied. So thank you for that. But yeah, as of February 27th, that'll be the last episode of 5 and 10 for Skywatch TV. And that will free up time then to do the research that I need to do for the second part of the book, because as Sharon wisely pointed out, did you get into the origins of the Nazis? Because that really began before World War I. It's like, oh, no. So I've got to go back and also, so I'm doing that research now. But again, it takes time to read. It doesn't just absorb all at once. It's so true. I spend for every hour I spend writing fiction or nonfiction, I've probably spent 100 doing research. Yeah. But it is not only just your daytime hours as far as 5 and 10. Once you do finally get permission to start that treatment will take up a lot of your week. Right. Too. Yeah. So anyway, if you guys would pray that would get approved, that would mean a whole lot. Because I mentioned the 5-day, excuse me, again, the gunk on the vocal cord is part of this condition. The 5-day treatment is an infusion process that's administered at a center where, say, cancer patients go to get their chemotherapy, and it takes several hours a day for 5 consecutive days. So basically, and afterwards, of course, you're just wiped out. Your body's trying to assimilate this new compound that's now in your veins. So you're not going to have a whole lot of extra hours. No, you wind up losing an entire week of work every 3 to 6 weeks going forward. So that would make it would be unfair to Skywatch TV to ask them to continue keeping me on the payroll when I'd be missing, say, a quarter of the time or more. So anyway, that'll be the change coming up at the end of February. But my prayer is then that the time available will allow me to
get book 2 of this out, which will cover how Israel became a nation and the spiritual forces at war behind the scenes from World War I through the present day, and how, the enemy, and I mean capital E enemy behind the scenes, has continued trying to destroy the nation of Israel since 1948. And there's some surprising players that were involved in trying to make that happen. I won't go any further than that because I
was going to say we could do it easily another 2 hours on that, but we
You've
don't.
got a rheumatology appointment on Monday, so that's your.
I do, and I'm praying that we'll get some answers there, because it could be that if indeed I do have Sjogren's, that's why I'm so incredibly tired most of the time.
Yeah,
it's very difficult to get much work done because I'm seriously tired.
Yeah. So that's it. As we age, we're slowing down the clock.
Oh no, not that.
Yeah, but again, if you've been with us for a while, well, you've been aging right along with us. So
I know
we know you
have.
get it. So
anyway, we love you guys. We're so appreciative of all of your prayers and your support and hanging in there with us for this long. I don't know if you want to call it an experiment, PID Radio, since March of 2005.
Yeah, again, not to pat ourselves on the back, but I can't think of another podcast that's been out there continuously produced since March of 2005. I'd have to go back and look and see if we can find some charts. I'm not really that interested.
I don't care. As long as we're doing what the Lord wants us to do.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
So anyway, tomorrow morning, the Gilbert House Fellowship, we will be back into the book of Isaiah as we look at Isaiah chapter 9.
I know.
Which is a really good one.
Stuff coming up.
Don't miss that one, because it connects to Matthew and Jesus and the valley of the shadow of death. And it's, some really, really good stuff. We'll do just, again, if it's the book of Isaiah, I'd figure one chapter per week, because it's got a lot of meat to it. And until next time, I'm Derek Gilbert.
I am Sharon Gilbert, and, happy Valentine's Day to all of you. We love you so much. Bye-bye, everybody.
PID Radio is on the air. Politics, prophecies, and conspiracy.